Greetings, my name is Michael Cook, and I am going to cover a program that I've been developing over the last few weeks. There's a calendar of me editing it and sort of doing this like outside in the rain right now, but I'm not actually in the rain. I'm just kind of like under a roof thing. But anyway, the graphical user interface that I've been slowly developing over the last couple of weeks. I've made a couple of videos that cover it, or at least me like building it. Those videos don't have any commentary because I've been recording in the library and I'm not allowed to like speak in the library. So like, what I'm doing right now is I'm showing off that I've added this thing that I've been working on to the module, though I have to do some final tweaking with it to get it to work in the module the correct way, because a couple of error messages happened when I was showing off the new module installation feature and whatnot. I am using TeamViewer to have another computer recording what's on the screen, and I'm trying to do this because like the resources that I have access to are rather limited. But so what I'm covering right now is the process that I conceptualized about 4 years ago to manage virtual machines, and a lot of the videos that I've made over the last couple of years, they deal specifically with graphical user interface design, as well as networking and application development, and I think I said networking, and also virtualization. It's a huge component of what I do. And in this particular video, I'm going to show a couple of links to things that I worked on in the past. So right now I'm loading functions into the module so that, or not into the module, into the console, so that people can see the graphical user interface that I designed since the last video that I made about Red Hat Enterprise Linux distribution. And so I've integrated all of the features. I've refactored all of the code that was in the videos going back to like January that say virtualization lab, mainly because in order for the graphical user interface to be able to fully deploy a virtual machine that's configured and integrates with the module components and everything, it has to calculate all the hosts on the network, and it's got to be able to really, I should probably come up with a script to read off, much like the documents that I write that talk about all the functions that I develop. But anyway, this is the XAML and all the items that are in the XAML. I use a custom type that allows me to see what those things are, and then also if I want to preview the XAML, I can use that function right there before actually overloading it with staging. So the stage XAML is basically a custom function that allows like the class, the embedded class, to be able to configure all of the event handlers and the things that go into like the data grids. So right here is the first panel, the master panel. Then you type in a path, and if the path is not valid, it's going to have that X there. And then if the text field is valid, then what it's going to do is it's going to show the green check mark, the green circle with the black check mark. And then right here you get to see the configuration settings, the base, range, hosts, and the DHCP settings. So all these settings, they're going to be propagated to the templates. And then I also came up with this idea for a credential page where I could add in different types of credentials, and then everything that was sort of like written in hard code, I made it adaptable so that the template that the utility makes, it can import these accounts and then basically when you load the template to spawn up the virtual machine, you'll have access to like the credentials and stuff. And in the image pane, you have access to you can type in the link or the path, and then hit the import button, and then it'll look for any ISO. And as it loads the ISOs, it looks for all the content within each ISO. So I covered this in a video that I made a little over a month ago, although I had to refactor it, and then I also I wanted to like extend what it was capable of doing. And so right here, the graphical user interface, if I select a new item, then it's going to like clear all the fields, and then like when I add the item, it's going to populate the data grid to the top. The data grids show a little buggy for some reason. Some of the fields don't show for whatever reason. I think it's just because I'm using a custom class for some of the fields, or I don't know, it's hard to say. But anyway, this last pane here, it'll actually show any existing virtual machines, and then, because I'm still developing the function, I want to be able to do all this from the script rather than have it all handled within the graphical user interface. And then so the graphical user interface and the code behind acts as a factory. So I don't even really need the graphical user interface to be able to populate it with all the information that I just did. It's simply just to make it look cooler, right? And more user-friendly and such. And right now it's creating a virtual machine based on the template settings and everything, and the memory in the system wasn't enough. I did have enough memory, I checked it, but sometimes it glitches out and it won't start the virtual machine if there isn't a certain amount of memory there. And with Windows 11, I think you need 4 gigabytes of RAM and no less than that. So, sort of taxing the system as it is. Anyway, it is now loading, and basically from here on out until the end of the video, I try to cover like things in the previous videos that I've made in the past, like from 4 years ago, as well as like almost 2 years ago, or a year and a half ago. So I'll talk about that in a minute. So while Windows 11 is installing, right, everything that I highlighted and hit F8 for, it automated the entire process to install Windows 11, from the graphical user interface, which is basically the same thing that I've covered in a couple of videos. I covered it in the video that I made last month, the virtualization lab, Windows desktop deployment, and then the Windows 11 setup is pretty different than the Windows 10 setup, and apparently you need to have a Microsoft account in order to do that. So that's why I had to I've been working on this demonstration for a little while, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, or not 3 weeks. Let's see, I started developing the GUI after I made the last video, Red Hat Enterprise Linux deployment. And then it became pretty obvious to me that I needed to refactor all the code, and then refactoring the code caused me to have to compartmentalize every single portion of the code in those videos in order to rewrite some of the functions and stuff. So redundant functions and methods, I was trying to find a way to avoid all of that so it's not spamming everything, and had to use run spacing to get the ping sweep, the ping async thing to work, which seems to work pretty well. So what I'm doing right now is I'm loading the markdown file for the project, and then it'll show all the the videos that are listed on the main page. And there they are. So those are not all the videos that I've made, but they all show off something unique about what I've been building and working on. And the first video right here is me dealing with VirtualBox back at the Computer Answers shop in Clifton Park. And what I was doing in that particular video was using VirtualBox to install Windows 10 to virtual machines over the network. The desktop that I was using had like a, I don't know, Core i7 7700K, and the server was a Windows Server 2016 server. And prior to me recording this particular video, I had a lab set up that was deploying the operating system fully installed, well, at least the PXE portion of the utility to installing within 3 minutes. And then it would, you know, take an additional 10 minutes to like finish the OOBE setup and then get into the operating system. But it was like hitting like 800 megabits per second or something like that. It was really, really fast. I think it was because, well, I'm not going to talk about the setup that I had at the Computer Answers shop, but I had a Cisco Catalyst switch, gigabit switch, and then I was using like link aggregation and multiple adapters on the server, and then the desktop had like NVMe drive in it, or like multiple, I think. I can't remember. But anyway, that particular video, I talked about like how I wanted to, you know, like make changes to the PXE setup portion of the utility. And so right here is sort of a much more comprehensive version of what I've shown off so far, which I don't know, as I like develop these things, I realized that the first time through when I conceptualize something, I might make it more complicated or more busy than it needs to be, and then I'll learn how to do what I'm doing a little bit more simply or more directly, and then I'll be able to take that really large GUI right there that you see, and then, you know, make the GUI that you saw in the beginning of this particular video. And so some of the aspects that I cover in the video that's playing in the background there is the FE infrastructure preview demo. And what it does is sort of the same thing that the GUI that I just showed off does, where it'll go through the images and then it'll extract like information from each of the images, and then you'll be able to see like the content of each image. So like, it comes down to this: if you have an ISO, then you have to mount it, and then you have to get the drive letter, and then once you have the drive letter, then you have to look for the files that say either install.wim or install.esd, and then once you have that path, then you can use the command get Windows image, and then you have to use an index. You have to use an index in order to be able to get the extra information from each of the files. And these are all things that the DISM++ tool that I was using is capable of doing, but then I figured out how to do it with PowerShell, and a lot of the commands to access the images, they all boil down to the DISM tool, the native deployment imaging service, the deployment and imaging servicing module, or I don't know, it's either deployment imaging service module or deployment and image servicing module. So it's one or the other. And anyway, then I'm sort of like scanning through the video, because it is a rather long video. It's a 2-hour long video. I don't expect everybody that like goes to look at it to like be overwhelmed with joy when they spend all that time watching what I built. But yeah, I built all that graphical user interface and all the code behind, and you know, elements of the module are able to be seen back then. Like I've been spending a long time like building this thing and trying to build it correctly. But in this particular demonstration, I'm able to show the PowerShell deployment method, which is what I started working on in the original video on the left, the top left tab there that says computer answers. So anyway, because I'm in the library when I'm making these lately, I've been typing out some of the things that I want to talk about or mention. This is something that I did start doing in the video on the left, the computer answers video. Mainly because I wasn't sure how to explain what I'm doing in a live fashion, or in a, like, being able to program while demonstrating an idea is pretty difficult to do, especially if you're trying to like explain what it is that you're doing. Don Jones does this quite a bit, but like some of the things that he does while he's like talking in front of like a class, like he had a 3-part series that I watched where like the screen is like tinted like blue or cyan, and he's covering like various aspects of how to like write PowerShell scripts and stuff. And I did watch a number of his videos, but I also watched a number of other people's videos, and then I also spent a long time sort of brute forcing ways to make things work the way I wanted to, and then I developed a style where like I can basically write the classes in a similar manner to C# and even implement C# code or XAML code, or be able to create like a dynamically adjustable chunk of XAML. I was doing that for a while, but having static code causes me to have less headaches, though I have to update it like every single time I update the module, like the paths for the graphics and stuff. But anyway, the tab right there is the MDT share tab, and to populate some of the information, I have this thing like Active Directory login, which pulls up this graphical user interface, which is sort of like the ADSI edit tool, or not ADSI, NTDS tool, or yeah, no, it is the ADSI edit tool. Anyway, it creates a directory searcher object, and then it's able to pull off certain objects out, like all those distinguished names for machines and users and everything, and then that information is injected into the bootstrap INI file for Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, as well as the custom settings.ini file. A lot of these buttons that I'm clicking on in this section here, they're just reaching into other components of the module that already have information for this, right? And so like that's the idea with like building this solution in a larger cohesive package. Is like the end goal is something that I'm going to cover in the next portion of this video, where after the operating system is installed, then the module is installed by the process, and then once the module is installed, then you'll have access to utilities that can capture information from event logs, or like sort of like MS Info 32, but like I don't know, not MS Info 32, but some of the information that shows up in that shows up in this Get FE system, and then also Get FE network. So you're getting a comprehensive list of all the information on the system, so that if you know, when you're promoting a domain controller, like a server to a domain controller, and it's not yet joined to the domain, how are you able to do that without there being problems unless you know the information specifically? Well, I found a way to get all this stuff to work by having certain prerequisites in place, and the utility that I have made, the FE DC promo utility, is basically virtually synonymous with the programming that goes into the actual DC promo validation classes. And I had to do a fair amount of research into like regex and testing like domain names and host names and NetBIOS names and DNS names, and being able to resolve DNS names to IP addresses in order to be able to access like a certain domain controller, and then like be able to have a way to enter in a legitimate user account and password so that the directory searcher would be able to work, so that it could comb the directory in order to find like any potential domain controllers to authenticate to. And basically all these things are, it's a long list of complicated stuff that I have like developed over the last 3 or 4 years. And do I think that everybody is gonna like understand all this stuff like the first time through? Probably not. But all of those entries right there are from the version of the module that I released back in 2021, in October 2021. And then like I kept like making changes to the FE infrastructure tool, which sort of like encapsulates all these functions. So the module, it puts together all these prerequisites, whether it's the XAML or whether it's searching through the network, or whether it's like validating like login information. And you're not like pissing in the wind when you're using this. It's basically, I've put a lot of time and effort into making it like a professional utility, but at the same time, like it still needs to be like tested within production environments that aren't like just mine. And a company like Microsoft would probably appreciate some of the work that I do, though to be perfectly clear, they have solutions in place that already do a lot of this stuff. But I don't think one guy has been able to replicate all the things that I've been able to replicate with these series of functions and classes and methods. Maybe there are. Maybe there's plenty of people out there that have gone to the lengths that I have already, and maybe his name is Michael Nyhouse, or maybe it's Johan Arvidmark, or maybe it's Michael Nystrom, or maybe maybe there's a long list of other guys that have already done this song and dance, and I don't know. I'm not going to speculate all that, but their modification to Microsoft Deployment Toolkit is right there. It's got my graphical user interface updates. All right, it's also got like portions of the utility where it can select a different operating system, or it's been a while since I used that particular portion of the utility, but the PXE portion and the PSD portion that you're able to see right there, it is not officially a part of the module, though it is on the repository. It has to be installed separately because it's not a core component of the module, and being able to figure out what's like core and what isn't takes some time. And basically from here until the end of the video, the function lost connection with the setup for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why. Windows 11 uses the TPM, and it's what I have noticed is that it's really hit or miss as to whether or not the MS-VM keyboard class actually works with interacting with the virtual machine. But what I also realize is that Windows 11, I have to use the same approach to using the keyboard that I did with the Linux installation. I think it just comes down to UEFI and like virtual machine shielding, or like a local key protector. And by the way, the local key protector function, it actually returns like an XML object with a byte order mark, which you know, at some point I'll cover that. And so, like, it sort of got hung there, and then I had to like reboot it. The virtual machine. Rebooting the virtual machine is pretty easy because with the methods that I use that are part of the class that is ejected from the control object, the variable that says CTRL, it creates the variable VM in the class. So it's a class factory. And what I was working on, see, I've never seen that before. Something went wrong, like in the setup, after I like hit the first option there. OOBE keyboard. It goes through again, it fails. You know, the funny thing is that the laptop that I'm using to run this lab, it doesn't support Windows 11, but I am able to install a virtual machine that's running Windows 11 on a machine that doesn't support Windows 11. As long as it's a virtual machine, then you can do it. But if it's not a virtual machine, then you can't do it because your computer might be too lame to run Windows 11. No, Windows 11 requires TPM, and it also requires like I don't know, some sort of certificate that protects the local key or whatever. Yeah, lost control of the system, and sometimes this happens, which is not good if I'm shooting for like consistency, but I don't think that's really my fault. At some point I'm gonna like have back-to-back video of the GUI here, being able to create a series of virtual machines. For instance, it'll build and deploy and configure a FreeBSD gateway, or OpenSense or pfSense gateway, and then that gateway will provide, well, I've already made videos that do what I'm saying right now, but then like I'm gonna have the GUI do all this, and then once all those gateways are open, or once that one gateway is up and it's able to redirect traffic and everything, then I'm going to deploy like Windows Server 2022 and then fully configure that with some of the information and whatever. And then that system can be fully configured and promoted to a domain controller so that it can take on either another server, or it could deploy the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit in addition to like all the prerequisites to deploy like desktops or workstations or other servers, and then also like a Linux workstation. And it'll all be done from the GUI, you know, not too differently or dissimilar from how System Center does it, or at least well, I believe it does. And I think that is when I ended the video. So with that being said, I think it's just about done. It might not be tomorrow, but if it is, it'll be up. And then, what the heck? Alright, so yeah, I am ending the video. If you liked what you saw, feel free to like, comment, or subscribe, and thanks for watching.